After I finish my first draft of the English translation for a section, I read it over. This helps me find any obvious typos and adjust how the text flows. It also ensures the translation is presentable before I give it to Sasha, our editor. At this point, the weekly section of the book moves from the Microsoft Word document I use for drafting to a Google document that we can both see and edit. I begin starting the translation of the next part and forget about the current one for a couple of days while Sasha works on it. What kinds of things does an English light novel editor look for? Because this is an English text, some issues are similar to what any book editor would find. These include words that do not quite have the intended meaning, sentences that do not flow well, or passages where the logic is confusing. The author, or in this case, the translator, often struggles with being too close to the text. As the creator, he or she usually knows what it is supposed to mean. Part of the editor's job is to point out where a reader would pause and say, "Wait, what?" This can take some unique forms with a translation. As a translator, it is easy to focus too much on the precise wording, order, or phrasing of the original text. An editor can help find synonyms when a word isn't quite right, or highlight an idiom that has been mindlessly retained from Japanese. They can also simply tell the translator, "Hey, we don't say that in English." A translator who is aware of these kinds of problems can often fix many of them during the first revision pass I mentioned. However, it is surprising how often they slip by, or how often I find myself asking Sasha, "Are you sure that is normal English?" After Sasha reads through and revises the week's work, I look at her changes and we decide what to keep and what to discuss. Occasionally we disagree about how a passage should sound in English, or how to achieve the intended tone. Sometimes she asks if I truly meant for the translation to say a certain thing. After that, we either work to make the English wording clearer, or I return to the original Japanese text to check if I overlooked anything. This process might seem a little like a debate, but it is actually a collaboration. We both want the same result, a translation that is as accurate as possible and sounds good when read in English. We often discuss specific words or passages, but we almost always agree on something we both like. To be honest, I accept most of Sasha's changes without much debate, because it's usually clear she is correct to make them. Yes, in the Apothecary Diaries, our discussions sometimes involve working together to solve the series' mysteries. We want to ensure the translation conveys the same clues and ambiguities as the original Japanese text. As the translator, I enjoy being part of the editing process for many reasons. It's a matter of quality. Sasha and I together create a better text than either of us could working alone. Also, if there's a problem with the translation, if I have made the English ambiguous unintentionally, it's better for Sasha to discuss it with me and understand my intention than for her to simply guess. But being part of the editing process also helps me grow as a writer. I have a chance to see how someone else judges my translation as an English text. I can learn where my language could be stronger or more precise. I also discover when I am too closely following the structure or language of the Japanese original. Paying attention to my editor can help me see quirks in my own English usage. Every translator, like every writer of English, has their own voice. They may earnestly try to act as nothing more than a ventriloquist's dummy for the original author, but their own habits of language are likely to appear. Translators do not produce a final translation on their own. Ideally, this is part of a cooperative process. This process helps focus and polish both the meaning and language of the translation. The goal is for the final published version to convey not just the story, but also the feeling of the original Japanese. The editor is an integral part of that process, a steady hand guiding the language. Thank you for joining us for this volume. Have fun and read widely, appreciating the work of those who polish the text as you go. We will see you next time. Sign up for our mailing list at Novel Club to hear about new releases, newsletter. You can also read the latest chapters like Volume 5 of this series is available by becoming a Novel Club member. Novel Club membership. Copyright The Apothecary Diaries Volume 4 by Natsu Hyuga. Illustrations by Taoko Shino. Translated by Kevin Steinbach. Edited by Sasha McGlynn. This book is a work of fiction. Names, characters, places, and incidents are the product of the author's imagination or are used fictitiously. Any resemblance to actual events, locales, or persons, living or dead, is coincidental. Kyusuri no Hitaragoto, copyright Natsuhyuga 2015, all rights reserved. Originally published in Japan by Shufunatomo Infos Company Limited, through Shufunatomo Company Limited. This English edition is published by arrangement with Shufunatomo Company Limited, Tokyo. English translation copyright 2022 J Novel Club LLC, all rights reserved. In accordance with the U.S. Copyright Act of 1976, scanning, uploading, and electronically sharing any part of this book without the permission of the publisher is unlawful piracy and theft of the author's intellectual property. J Novel Club LLC operates J Novel Club. The publisher is not responsible for websites or their content that are not owned by the publisher. This ebook edition is version 10, published in January 2022.